President Joe Biden has so graciously offered to send more of our taxpayer money to Ukraine, $33 billion to be in fact, including $20 billion for weapons, $8.5 billion in direct economic assistance, and $3 billion in humanitarian aid. I guess we have money to give their economy while our economy suffers. Interesting. Let's listen to the glorious Joe Biden explain himself.
Their hard work has played a critical role in ensuring Putin's strategic failure in Ukraine, and they should know that we know it. In addition to this supplemental funding, I'm also sending to Congress a comprehensive package that will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys. This legislative package strengthens our law enforcement capabilities to seize property linked to Russia's kleptocracy.
It's worth noting that the ruble is above where it was before the sanctions started, yet Americans and Ukrainians are suffering. Going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to... What's going on, everybody? I'm going to try to stay as calm as I possibly can today because it just frustrates me more than anything. And I'm a pretty calm person, but just watching our country just get exploited, looted, just completely robbed. During the pandemic, trillions of dollars were printed by Trump. Trillions of dollars were printed by Biden, Congress, Federal Reserve. Now they're all Putin. Okay, taking no accountability the second that they lay off of the restrictions. Now there's a new thing that we have to funnel our money for. They acted like Trump was literally Hitler when he asked to build a wall. Now they're literally trying to send more money to a foreign country, including, if you read that report from Reuters, billions of dollars for their economy. What else is it when our own economy is failing? I actually own stocks now. I try to invest in my future because I don't have a 401k. And now my net worth, my stocks, my family's, everything that they've worked for is going down. Yet somehow we have the money to send billions upon tens of billions of dollars to a foreign country, not just for weapons, for this little proxy war that's really just killing Ukrainians and Russians, but magically we have the money to booster a foreign country's economy when we don't even have a grasp on our own. The fact that people don't realize that America is just being completely robbed and looted is insane. But before I have a conniption, two things. One, I'm going to play this clip of Joe Biden again just to try to get a comic relief in. And also, that's my free email list, stayintouchwithme.com. If you were already on it, I sent out an email this morning. Check it. If it's in your spam folder, check it, move it to your inbox. It should be there. So I got my new podcast with DC Drano on there. But let's just watch this guy stumbling and bumbling. And I'm going to try to not get upset today. I really am.
In addition to this supplemental funding, I'm also sending to Congress a comprehensive package that will enhance our underlying effort to accommodate the Russian oligarchs and make sure we take their ill-begotten gains. We're going to accommodate them. We're going to seize their yachts, their luxury homes, and other ill-begotten gains of Putin's kleptocracy and the guys who are the kleptocracies. But these are bad guys. This legislative package strengthens our law enforcement capabilities to seize property linked to Russia's kleptocracy.
That's stupid, Laffy. I just stumbled through words. Yeah, it's so funny, Joe. But go eat some ice cream, bro. Go wander with a mask on. Force some ice cream under your mask. I mean, I'm almost grateful that he is who the Democrats chose because they're not even hiding anymore. Obama was a good puppet, right? Okay. Listen to me, folks. Okay, I play basketball. Climate change is real. People are like, oh, man, Obama's cool. Like, Joe Biden is such a pathetic loser that it's very hard to keep the illusion alive. So I'm grateful that they're so corrupt and fraudulent that they chose Joe Biden as this master leader of the party because it really exposes everything. But I have it in front of me right now, this Reuters report. They're trying to send $33 billion to Ukraine, $20 billion for weapons. Here's the crazy part, folks. $8.5 billion in direct economic assistance. And here's the other crazy part. I guarantee you it's not just going to be Democrats that are supporting this bill. We need to give our taxpayer money to Ukraine. I have to pay taxes so you could send it to Zelensky. How much cocaine does this guy need to do? No, I'm just kidding. But jokes aside, it's like we're paying taxes in a failing economy when everybody's 401ks are going down, when people's dollar value is going down, when inflation is going through the roof, and the price of meat and gas is going up. Everybody's having a tougher time to live. Even if you're making good money, you're seeing your dollar go downwards. And we have over $8 billion to give to another country's economy. Are you kidding me? It's just unbelievable. I have, once again, I try to stay calm and peaceful, but I have a solution. Let's, instead of sending $8.5 billion to Ukraine, let's just send all the controlled opposition Republicans that are brainwashing people on Fox News to support this war against their own interests. Let's send Sean Hannity overseas. Let's send Mark Levin overseas. Let's send Ted Cruz overseas. I just had a Zoom call with Zelensky. Oh, I'm Ted Cruz. Cool. Why don't you go hang out with him in person, Ted Cruz? We'll send you. You're worth billions of dollars. That's how much I thank you, Ted Cruz. Why don't you go over to Ukraine, okay? Because I'm tired of these fake Republicans. Obviously, the Democrats are corrupt, but how many of these Republicans in Congress, Senate, and House, how many are going to vote for this stuff? I guarantee you way too many of them are going to vote for this and be like, oh, yeah, patriots. The only way to be a patriot is to give your taxpayer dollars to Zelensky so he can do cocaine. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, it's a bipartisan affair. And I have some unpopular opinions, many of them. But here's the unfortunate truth about how I believe America's being looted. Think about what $1 trillion can do. And this is just my opinion, but you got Mark Cuban, aka Marxist Cuban. He's on Twitter saying, Elon, fair political speech is fine, but Marxist Cuban said, but we can't, he's basically saying health and, safety. We can't have health be free speech. We need to censor, health speech. Here's the thing, Marxist Cuban. If you look at the pandemic, kids got fatter, thousands upon hundreds of thousands of kids are now having speech problems. They have learning disabilities from all the forced masking and the lockdown. So with trillions of dollars being spent by the government, with lockdowns, etc., you made kids fatter. Not you, Marxist Cuban, but these other people. It's like, is that a successful health campaign? Tens of trillions of dollars is spent, the economy imploding, you blaming Putin and saying that kids are fatter, and that's a huge success because, with their 2 masks on, they didn't catch COVID 3 times or something. That's a health success to you. This is just my opinion. But I believe that gym bros on Instagram, just people who work out and talk about fitness, I believe that gym bros have positively impacted the health of America more than any money that Donald Trump spent or Mitch McConnell spent or Nancy Pelosi or the FDA or the CDC or Biden or whoever you want to put in charge of the money that they're writing off. I think gym bros on Instagram with a $0 budget did more to impact the health positively in this country than the trillions of dollars you guys spent. Our country is just absolutely being looted, and nobody even realizes it. Before Biden even got here, 2018, Trump signs the omnibus bill, right? He puts up a fight. Trump is, not a normal politician. He says, I'll never sign one of these bills again, because before the pandemic, every year, they're just signing off trillions of dollars going God knows where. Government's just, sending your money all over the place, and $1 trillion is a lot of money. Then in 2019, Trump signs it again, doesn't put up a fight. Then in 2020, there's a pandemic. So now we got to print $6 trillion, right? And now Joe Biden gets into office and Trump says, well, it's Biden, even though he doesn't take accountability for what he does. And then Biden prints trillions of dollars. And then after that's done, now it's Putin. And they both blame, oh, it's Putin did this. And they all did it. You're all in on it. You're all looting the country. You're all stealing our money. It's like this giant theft scheme where they just print trillions of dollars every year and they're just ramping up. It's like a cokehead, and they're sitting in a room with like a bunch of cocaine and they just keep doing cocaine and they're like, oh, it's like they just can't stop. They just can't stop spending your money. The second that it's like, hey, let's go back to normal and go back to work. New York City's like, yeah, let's go back. Let's act normal again. Let's stop treating people like animals and prisoners. And then just magically the next day, there's just this war that now we got to, instead of giving our money to COVID, and instead of giving our money to, Pfizer, Trump gave our money to Moderna. Now all these Republicans are complaining about Moderna because they're looking to give the vaccines to little kids with, emergency approval. It's like, well, we just gave the money to them. Well, now let's give our money to Zelensky. Let's give $2 billion. Let's give $5 billion. Let's give $33 billion. Why not just give Zelensky $1 trillion? Let's just give him $1 bajillion. Why not just loot our grandkids and our grandkids' grandkids and let's just send all the money. Let's just put the Federal Reserve on Air Force One and fly them over to Zelensky so he could do cocaine with them. Why not just give him everything? Let's just give our houses to Zelensky. Let's just give my future to. Does Zelensky want coffee? I'll pour him a pour over. Does he want some? Zelensky, you thirsty? I got water for you. What do you want, bro? You want my little necklace? You want my hat? GodBlessHats.com. You don't have to pay, Zelensky. I'll give it to you for free. What do you want? You want everything? You want our future? It's unbelievable. And the crazy part, of course, I could go off about how garbage Biden is. He's a terrible president. He's brain dead. He's just a puppet, though. What's crazier to me is that the opposition party will probably support this war. Not everybody. I know there are some people speaking out against it, but I don't know who's telling people what about this war, but Zelensky, America, NATO, and obviously Putin with the invasion, but they're sacrificing Ukrainians. They're sacrificing Americans' economy. They're sending your money overseas. They're not trying to stop this war. A Ukraine flag in the bio is the new black square. And I'm going to give you guys the metaphor. What did the black square do? Okay, I'm such a not racist. I'm going to put a black square in my bio. Now I'm going to support the rioting and looting in neighborhoods, which is terrible. Billions of dollars of property damage, multiple people dead, businesses destroyed, everything getting worse, crime going up. And then you just say, but I had a black square in my bio and I'm so not racist because I support George Floyd over the cop. It's like, yeah, but what you supported in the following that situation was just destroying black neighborhoods, destroying multicultural neighborhoods, destroying American infrastructure in cities. So you actually did a net negative to the black community and America. Now let's go to Ukraine. Well, I have a anomaly. You're right about everything, but not Ukraine. I have a Ukraine flag in my bio. It's the same thing as a black square. Just because you have a Ukraine flag in your bio doesn't mean you're helping Ukraine. Zelensky's sacrificing his own people. NATO and the West started this proxy war, and they're sacrificing our own people. The only leader, to his credit, as much as he's a sleazy vaccine salesman, Donald Trump is the only one I've seen calling for a peace deal. That's the only thing that's going to end this war. NATO went further. They pushed Zelensky. He's a total fraud and a total puppet. He started this war. Now, they don't want to end it. We're funneling tens of billions of dollars. We're keeping this war going. Every time we fund Zelensky, more money for him to do cocaine. Just kidding. But, the war continues. More Ukrainians are going to die. The only way to end this war would be to come to the table and stop lying. But Zelensky, just like the Western press, what can't they stop doing? They can't stop lying. Do you think Joe Biden can stop lying? Of course, all they do is lie. If they ever stop lying, they're going to get treated like Bill Maher or Elon Musk, and everyone's going to hate them because they're so deep in the lies. So instead of stop lying and coming to the table and saying, okay, we've lied 15 times. We definitely helped start this war. The revolution of 2014 definitely they have to just act like it doesn't exist, ban people off the internet, ban political parties, create a disinformation agency or whatever, and just say, no, we're just going to keep funneling tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine because that's going to stop the war. That's like saying, hey, let's fund this rebel group. Let's fund this rebel group. Their arms and weapons are getting into the hands of Al-Qaeda, and we're fighting ISIS by funding rebel. Yeah, it's like the more they funded stuff in the Middle East, the more ISIS rose, the more things got out of control because they're funding the war. In some cases, there's an LA Times article I could find, I believe from 2014, where the CIA was funneling one rebel group and the Pentagon was funding another rebel group, and the two groups were actually fighting each other. It's just like this war. Where's Russia getting its money from? Well, it's got a lot of money anyway, but I don't know, Germany will freaking go bankrupt and die if they don't get the Russian oil production that controls more than half their country. So, we're funding both sides of the war. Our European allies are funding Ukraine and they're funding Russia directly and indirectly. So how are we going to end this war when we're funding both sides of the war? They're not trying to end this war. Zelensky's like Fauci. It's like, let me see how much I can go around, how many people I can sacrifice for my own self-interest, for my own glory days. So, the people with the Ukraine flag in their bio, what they don't realize is, no offense, it's the same as the black square in your bio. You say you're helping black people, you claim to help black people, but everything you do ends up hurting black people. It's the same thing with Ukraine. You claim to love Ukraine, but you're sacrificing Ukraine for a social political agenda you don't understand. And just because you're emotional about it doesn't mean you're right. So, how are we going to end this war? We're not even trying to. They're sacrificing Ukrainians. They're sacrificing Russians. They're sacrificing our economy probably harder than they're even sacrificing Putin's economy. And now we got to pay $33 trillion. And I got to listen to Ted Cruz talk about, him Zoom calling Zelensky and Mark Levin have a conniption on Fox News. Luckily, I don't watch him, so I don't know what he's saying. But apparently, he's like, "Oh, if you don't support Ukraine, you're not an American." Yeah, we know who you are, Mark Levin. Keep lying to people. But in general, it's like this is a war against people's own self-interest. And one thing that people will realize, I mean, maybe this won't be popular to say, but I'm just being honest. If you go in the world in the last 20 years, which cultures are rejecting left-wing authoritarianism? I mean, I'm not saying people are perfect, but which cultures are rejecting the LGBT takeover where they're turning your kids into different genders and stuff? Some people apparently agree with that. Some people don't. But who's rejecting that in the world right now? Let's go to the Middle East. Well, Muslims are rejecting that. Oh, weird. They turned Christians and right-wingers against Muslims. Oh, let's fight all the Muslims. So, then we'll really win the war. You mean you'll fight the only people that are more conservative than you and the only people that are blocking off this type of degeneracy? Oh, yeah, that's really going to work. And then you go to Europe. Which countries in Europe are blocking this type of degeneracy? I mean, Germany is a total shell of itself. They're dependent on Russia, yet they're fighting Russia. It's like they're fighting for their lives because they'll die without Russia. But in general, Europe is just completely far gone. Oh, Russia, the only country that's not just completely caving to NATO, EU, UN, all this type of Western, let's make SpongeBob gay and turn your kids into women. The only country that's really not playing along. Oh, what do you know? Now we're at war with them. Oh, now we're sacrificing Ukrainians and we're hurting them and pretending like we're helping. Oh, now we're involved in some sort of revolution of dignity insurrection that 120 to 80 people are dead, and now there's a anti-Western leader or anti-Russian leader in charge, and now we're flying over to Zelensky and giving him weapons for 5 years and declaring war on Russia. Oh, weird. So all these phony neocons / Zionist, war hawk, fraudulent, liars, degenerate scum on Fox News, etc. They're gonna brainwash right-wingers into fighting a war against their own best interests. And as soon as you're done weeding out everybody in the world who blocks out this satanic inverted stuff that they're pushing in America, the people that are doing all that stuff, they're going to turn right and come right back at you like they're already coming at you. So, that's what I believe is going on here. It's like the right wing, not everybody, there's definitely some winners. Tucker's doing the truth, a lot of people, but they're doing the same like controlled opposition thing. Let's lock down for a week or 2 weeks. Let's, Big Pharma's corrupt and we don't want to mandate it, but we're going to sign an executive order in 2019 to basically give them all this power. Then we're going to do Operation Warp Speed and give them tens of billions of dollars. Oh, but we're not trying to empower Big Pharma against you. We're just giving them the money. It's like that's the right wing now. They slap you in the face with the hand, and then the left wing slaps you harder, and then the right wing stands back and be like, well, I didn't hit you second. I only hit you first. It's like, then what's the point? So someone said Putin has killed hundreds of thousands. I'm not saying Putin's a great person. I'm not like this Putin fanatic. I'm just saying, there's people dying all over the place. I believe Western governments with their lockdowns, forced mandates, with the fact that they locked elderly people in, I think if you added up all the death count of elderly people who lost access to their family and friends, elderly people who lost access to their exercise, the fact that children are now obese, that obesity is rising, depression's rising, opioid overdose is rising. If you add all that stuff with the lockdowns of Big Pharma, the West has killed millions, if not tens of millions of people. So are we going to invade ourselves just because people are killing people? So I don't believe in death. I don't believe in murder. But this idea that the Western world that's killing millions of its own people through Big Pharma corruption, lockdowns, forced tyranny, obesity is on the rise in this country. What do you think is killing millions of people every year? Heart disease, diabetes, these type of things are sending our life expectancy backwards. The number one killer is, pharmacy opioids that are killing hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm gonna say, so because that's happening, let's go start a proxy war between Russia and Ukraine and just sacrifice Ukrainians because Putin's a bad guy. I'm sorry, I don't agree with certain Muslim countries, but what are you gonna do? Fund a rebel group to fight three sides of the war? You got Sunnis, Shiites, everybody. At a certain point, it's not really doing that much. So someone said the crime rate's up. I mean, people are dying in America all the time from I'm not gonna say gun violence, but just like degenerate people killing each other. Yeah, the world is messed up. I'm not this massive like Russia fanatic. I'm just saying like, oh, he's authoritarian. So is the West. The West, EU, UN, I guess like the World Health Organization, they're trying to supersede our own government, get rid of the First Amendment, strong arm companies in America like Twitter into censoring things that we don't agree with in our country. So it's like we're like a degenerate authoritarian ourselves. I'm not saying Putin's great, but this idea that sacrificing Ukraine is going to somehow help Ukrainians and help Russians, I mean, you're out of your mind. So I'm not making an excuse for anything that he's ever done, but this idea that the West isn't killing millions of people, it's historically illiterate. I mean, look at the wars in the Middle East over the last 20 years. How many people died unnecessarily from all of those? I'm not even getting into what we're doing to our own people. We are absolutely not the moral high ground of the world anymore. I love America. I appreciate what we've done. We've definitely helped in certain regions, but it's like invading 15 countries and then saying, well, he invaded that country. Yeah, it's terrible, but we've invaded like 15 countries and we don't even have a history there. We're not even over there. We don't even live there. That country's right next to them. I don't know. I get it. If China invades Taiwan, we're going to be pissed. If Russia invades Ukraine, we're going to be pissed. But I personally, and you don't have to agree, but this idea that the Russia thing, and I've talked about it a few times, but if you go to the history of Russia and Ukraine, it starts back decades ago, but we have gone against things that we had promised. And I'm not saying that Russia's perfect, but it would be equivalent to if China or Russia was funneling weapons to Mexico. I mean, what is he supposed to do? Just let them, Bashir al-Assad him? Or, we have a track record of killing Saddam Hussein, killing Muammar Gaddafi, trying to kill Bashir al-Assad. Everywhere we've ever gone, we've tried to overthrow the leader and invade. We've invaded 15 countries. So if we have our politicians literally in Ukraine, now there's a revolution in 2014. There's a massive anti-Russian government involved when that was never the case. And now you have American politicians funneling weapons to Russia right on the door. Funneling weapons to Ukraine. I mean, I'm not saying it's justified, but it's like at this point you have two options. It's like with Democrats. It would be equivalent, in my opinion, to being like, well, just be a Democrat then. It's like, well, don't fight Joe Biden. Don't do disinformation. You're just go along with it. Just let them like teach weird stuff to your kids when you're 3 years old and, put on a mask and get your vaccine mandate and just do it. I mean, that's what the West is doing, right? You just play along. It's like, no, at a certain point, you're going to say for your own best interest, you're going to be like, I love America. I love what, options we have here, but I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to get a vaccine to go to a sports game. I'm going to put my foot down, right? You do that in your country, do you not? No, you don't. I mean, some people do, some people don't. That's what I feel like. I love my country. I love Europe, but at the same time, no means no. And if they're going to impede on my freedom, my liberty, and try to turn our country into some sort of communist hellhole where nobody has any freedom, liberty, people are getting fatter, more depressed, more overdosed on pills. This is no utopia. Left-wing cities, these kids are all depressed. They're all out of shape. Their minds all scrambled. They think families are bad. I mean, it's straight up satanic inversion. Everything that makes you happy, healthy, and successful, they believe the opposite. Am I supposed to just sit there and say, oh, yeah, that's really great. And since they're doing it in my country, I'm an American. So we say, no, no disrespect. I have a disagreement. And at a certain point, if you're going to keep infringing on my rights, I'm going to put my foot down and say, get away from me. You know what I'm saying? Back up a little bit. And I mean, as much as I love this country and as much as I support Europe, I understand why certain leaders in the world look at what we're doing and say, listen, I don't want to be like that. I mean, we don't even want to be like that. Why would I want another country to be like that? Why would I fly over to the Middle East and tell them to wave rainbow flags when we don't even have it under control here? There's a lot more than gay marriage happening in America. I don't know if you've realized. So I'm not blaming every person who considers himself an L, a G, a B, or a T. But at the same time, it's like America has no control over their own culture, no control over their identity. We have, the people that are claiming to help our health are literally impeding on our health. And then if you try to speak about it, they try to censor you. So you get what I'm saying? Like, this is who wants what we have right now? I mean, we're not like the envy of the world right now. For some reasons, free speech, yes. Innovation, yes. Still prosperity. But our culture is not ideal. So, that's the thing when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, et cetera. I mean, I think at a certain point, you have the right to back up Europe and be like, yeah, I don't want to do that because I don't believe we're going in the right direction ourselves. The people, our allies, don't even believe in our own sovereignty. I mean, no disrespect to the World Health Organization, but America should not be superseded by the EU. I don't care what the EU says. I don't care what the World Health Organization says. I don't care what Angela Merkel says. I don't care what Macron says. I don't care what fraudulent Boris Johnson says. We're not Europe. So they're trying to turn us into Europe. We're already like Europe. And I don't want to be like Europe. It doesn't mean I hate them, but it's like, if being aligned with them means morphing into them, then maybe we should reconsider it. I don't know. I don't like the direction that this is all going. I don't think anybody does, but that's my take on the Russia situation. It's not so black and white where it's like, well, you must love Russia. It's like, no, I'm not Russian. I don't have any connection culturally at all to Russia, but I do see, as somebody who's honest, it's the same as like, I could see it from both sides. I could see why he feels that way. I could see why we feel that way, but I don't know how sending $33 billion to Ukraine is going to do anything but sacrifice more Ukrainians and hurt America. That's just my personal take on it. But someone said free speech to say what? Sin? Well, I don't know. I mean, people are free to, I guess, say sinful things, but then you just have to deal with the consequences. I don't know. I think this is something that gets misconstrued nowadays because the left wing says, well, what, can you say anything? And it's like, you can't do violence. Like, free speech doesn't protect like violence or certain stuff. But as far as political and social speech, it should protect it. And, it's a slippery slope. So I guess it really depends where you want to draw the line. If they say, well, it's health and safety and, you have free speech, but not to go against people's health. You got to be out of your freaking mind to not think that American media is hurting American citizens. They're pumping pharmaceuticals into people when that's one of the number one killers of people 20 to 30. They're nonstop, just out of control with that stuff. Yet, obesity's on the rise, childhood obesity's on the rise, depression's on the rise, life expectancy is going backwards, chronic illnesses have been growing over the last 30 years. But these are the people that are going to tell you that you can't talk about getting sunlight, vitamin D, and doing push-ups. They're going to stop you. So to me, that's the biggest threat. It's like, I don't like Putin, I don't like Zelensky, but I feel like our own system is a massive threat. I mean, the whole reason that I'm happy, healthy, successful is because I do the opposite of what the media says. I don't take their products. I don't listen to their mindset. I don't have a victim mentality. I don't believe what they're talking about. If I believed what they were talking about, I would be depressed like the millions of left-wingers who listen to them. Like Taylor Loren, she's like, I'm suicidal, I'm depressed. And I'm like, I feel sorry for you. I pray for your health, but I'm not surprised because you're surrounded by a bunch of liars and frauds and people with no self-awareness. Everything that you think is bad and white supremacy, like families and basic common sense and, having a male-female relationship, like that's all good and proven through time. Like you're fighting reality all the time, So it's like, to me, that's a massive deal. And when I look at places like Russia, Belarus, even Islamic countries, I'm not Muslim, but Muslims like me because I tell it like it is. I'm not Russian, but I don't know if they even can get my live streams. I have no idea what their rules are over there. Belarus, but when I see someone like Belarus was one of the only places that didn't lock down. He said no lockdowns. He didn't strictly mandate any of this stuff. So how can I not notice that the American regime that's destroying my country is running around the world pointing out the places that are not completely bowing down to their satanic inversion and trying to turn Christians and Americans against, people that share actually some of their interests, while not all of them. It's like, what's going to happen in a world? Oh, we have to fight the Muslims. We have to fight the Russians and the Belarus. Yeah, then what's left? Everyone's going to be like Germany. Everyone's going to be a complete shell of themselves. There's going to be no back. That's what they want. They want a total communist rule over everybody. And they're using social justice. They're using the L's, the G's, the B's, the T's. It's not to say everybody's in on it, but they're using that agenda. They're using things like COVID-19. It's not to say it's not real, but, they're using that to start to do these things. And the next thing people listening to Mark Levin and Sean Hannity, once they run you down the wrong track, there's going to be no one else left to blame, and it's going to be on you. So I'm just giving people a heads up that these people are complete fraudulent liars on certain topics. On certain topics, they're not. So, I've had a revelation, because when you listen to a lot of right wingers and they talk about Muslims, they're like, oh my God, Muslims this, we got to go to fight. And if you really take that out of your head and look at like a place like Dubai is socially liberal. It's wealthy as well. Money helps, but it's socially somewhat liberal now, way more than most Muslim places. But it's also clean and safe and nice because Muslims don't play on the left wing. Oh, let's just let crime, if Muslims in Dubai acted like left wingers in San Francisco, Dubai would also be a shithole. But the reason it's not a shithole, there's a lot of money in San Francisco. It's not like they don't have money there. They got God knows how much money. I mean, California has a crap load of money in economy, but it's run by left wingers who are dumb. No offense. You go to Dubai, it's their Islamic culture. They say, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not do this stuff. And if you do this stuff, there's a heavy, heavy punishment against you. So, when these right wingers turn people against Islam, it's like, you don't have to be Islamic if you're in America. I'm not telling that for you. I'm not asking you to live under Sharia law. But when they're sending you overseas to go fight with this or fight with these people, it's hard for me not to notice that there's some of the only people left in the world that believe in God, that don't bow down to the rainbow flag, that don't accept it in their culture. All these companies that say, oh, Americans are so anti-LGBT. Oh my God, Americans are so terrible. They go over to Saudi Arabia, they go over to China, they go over to these other countries, and then they censor their own videos because it's not culturally acceptable there. So all I'm saying is, like, they're trying to turn people against other people in the world to bash them. And then it's like they'll have complete control over everything. I'm not asking people to live in Palestine or Dubai. I'm just saying I don't think it's our job to run around the world fighting Muslims in Russia. And I don't think the end result of getting rid of, their culture is going to be the answer. With Russia as tyrannical and authoritarian as Putin is, do you think a liberal would run Russia better? They would destroy that country in a second. Are you kidding me? You have a problem with we tried to run the Muslim world. We couldn't figure it out. It's not easy. At a certain point, you can't run the south side of Chicago. Give them $5 trillion. Send Sean King there and Colin Kaepernick. They can figure it out. But in general, it's like, I don't think getting rid of Russia, as terrible as Putin may be, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to replace him with, an Angela Merkel? You think, Putin at least seems to somewhat respect his own country. Like Angela Merkel, like, do you think she really cares about Germans a lot? It doesn't seem like it. So I don't know. It's like, you always got to think of a solution. Well, we got rid of Gaddafi. Okay, Gaddafi's so bad, anomaly. Yeah, but then what happened? Slavery. So you're getting rid of a sovereign country and replacing it with human slavery, and you're going to act like that's liberal. That's all the left wingers do. But when it comes to foreign policy, a lot of neocons and war hawks, and they walk hand in hand with the left wingers and say, here, we finally agree on something. It's like anytime they agree with the left wingers, it's almost never a good thing. So, it's not, and people will misconstrue this. I'm not telling people to go live in a Muslim country. I'm not telling people to support in Russia. I'm just telling people, focus on your own country, because what they're trying to replace those with is not better. I can promise you. What they're trying to replace, the leaders that they're trying to replace it with, it's not better. And both parties fall into it. I remember when Lukashenko, the only reason I know about Lukashenko from Belarus is because he was the only, or one of the only leaders I could find in Europe, maybe the only leader in Europe, who didn't lock his country down and said, just get over it, go in a sauna. And I love saunas and steam rooms. So as somebody that likes health, I'm like, wow, there's actually a European president that won't lock the country down and is telling people to go in the sauna. I thought it was hilarious. I don't live in Belarus, but anyway, he won the election, and you have Richard Grenell, Trump's guy. He's talking about, oh, we got to support the protests against the Belarusian president. I'm thinking to myself, he won an election. The protests are left wingers trying to overthrow a more conservative leader. Yeah, he might be a bit of an authoritarian, but he won the election. I don't know what you want him to do. He had an election. The left winger lost. It's not a left wing country. There's more right wingers in Belarus. Anyway, you had right wingers, neocon Zionists, whatever you want to call them. They're supporting a left wing revolution in Russia. It's the same that they did in Ukraine. They were supporting a revolution. Sometimes they use right wingers, sometimes they use left wingers. But it's like, I can't help but notice, do I think the Belarusian president is amazing? I don't really know him. But if he's the only president in Europe who didn't lock his country down, I just want to leave him alone. That's just my personal opinion. It's like, I don't want everybody in Europe to be locking their own people down like prisoners and slaves. I appreciate a leader who says no to the lockdown. So I find it fascinating that the only leader in Europe that didn't lock his own people down is now under an attack or is on the attack with Putin. You can say what you want, but I don't know. I just notice these patterns, and it's like, I don't think the war is what people think it is. That's just my opinion. But based on, I guess, research and facts. But someone said Iowa only locked down 8 weeks. I mean, Belarus didn't lock down at all. So, I mean, I don't think they locked down at all, but that's fine. All right, here's a straw man argument, Daryl. You said Putin's a murderer and you said he's a good guy. All right, here's how I know you're a liar, Daryl. God bless you. Find this live stream, Daryl, okay? Mr. Daryl, big liar guy. Find this live stream and tell me where I said Putin's a good guy. If you rewind this live stream when it's over, you're going to find out, liar Daryl, that I never once said Putin's a good guy. So if you have to make up a lie in your own head in order to try to counter my argument, maybe you're a liar, Daryl, okay? I've never said Putin's a good guy. I just explained exactly what I explained. So maybe you're not as honest as you think you are, Daryl. If you have to fraudulently make up a fake argument that has never been said in this live stream and fight that straw man argument that doesn't even exist, okay? Stop lying, liar Daryl, okay? This is what people say. Oh, well, if that's a Putin talking point. Oh, what are you, a racist? What are you, a sexist? Oh, you're a xenophobe? Oh, what are you, an anti-vaxxer? Oh, are you a climate change denier? Oh, is Putin, you think he's a good guy? Oh, what do you like? Just like attached to the Mark Levin show or something? You can't handle it? It's fine, bro. But I'm just being honest. It's like, I never said that. So if you can't even say something I said, then what's the point? Someone said Putler is Putin's benevolent twin. Putler. That's pretty funny. Clifton said he doesn't want to debate. He blocks anyone with a different opinion. Not true, because it doesn't fit his narrative. Not true. He harshly criticized conservatives. He's just not the guy I thought he was, unfortunately. I'm hosting your opinion, so it's not true. I don't block people who disagree with me. On Twitter, I just block people that are NPCs, and they're saying, like, I have a lot of discussions, debates. If you're just going to repeat something that's fake and dumb like 1,000 times, it's like talking to a brick wall. I'm somebody, I like to work out. I like to make videos. I like to listen to podcasts. I like to learn. So there's thousands of people who follow me who disagree with me that never get blocked, and they teach me stuff and I learn. But then there's just annoying people who just lie and say weirdo stuff. And eventually, as it's like having a plate of like 50,000, I don't have to eat everything. So certain people's presence, no offense, is just not wanted on my Twitter feed. And then when I block people, they come to my Instagram and they cry, I miss your content. Oh my God, I miss it so much. It's like, then you should have just said something valuable instead of just being like a net negative on my, my timeline. I don't just block anyone who disagrees. And I don't just criticize conservatives. I'm just trying to let people know at a certain point, your entire movement's going to be controlled opposition if you're not able to call out the other side. I've hosted dozens of debates, and if you can teach me something, I'm able to learn and evolve. But the things that I'm very hardline on, nobody has yet to disprove me. I've proven, I know people don't want to hear this, but I've proven that Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, and the GOP supports speech laws. In multiple states, I believe like 20 plus states, there are Israeli loyalty speech laws where you cannot criticize Israel, and there are Jewish people restrictions of what you can and can't say about powerful Jewish people in America. Yet in those same states, you are allowed to criticize America. You're allowed to criticize Christians. You could say whatever you want in these states, but just not about that topic. So I've already proven that the GOP actually doesn't support free speech in the way that they say. But Governor Abbott's the same way. He tried to ban Gab, which is the only free speech platform, from his entire state with an Israeli flag behind him. Isn't that a little bit weird to people that these free speech activists are literally passing laws for a foreign country that are not even available? Has nothing to do with hating Israel. It's just like, I can criticize America, so why would I be restricted in a state to criticize a foreign country, whether it be Israel, Saudi Arabia, Russia, or Ukraine? The reason is because that's just who the GOP is. So it's like, I'm not just criticizing it. It's like, if you think they're fighting for free speech, yeah, they're better than Democrats, but you're always going to be a step behind. You're always going to end in a lockdown. The mandates are always going to come. The trillions of dollars are going to keep getting printed because your party's not even trying to really stop it. It's just a big show. And I point that out because I actually care. Like, before 2020, most Republicans would say, yeah, don't print $5 trillion. But when Trump prints it, all of a sudden, well, I don't care. It's like, then you're not even a conservative or a libertarian. You're like a communist socialist who just picks wrestling people that you like. What's the point of at least just be like, yeah, I have no ideals. I don't have really conservative ideals. I just like Donald Trump. I would respect that. I'd be like, I get it. He's funny. He's likable. But the people that are like, I'm hardline conservative, and then it's like Trump will literally do like communism and socialism and, give big pharma money, power, and liability clauses to literally just bash you in the throat. And then they bash you in the throat, and then you blame Biden. That's about as disingenuous as Biden blaming Putin. Biden blames Putin for everything that him and Trump did. Trump blames Biden for things that they both did. And the truth is, it's all three of them. Putin invading did not help gas prices, but Biden is absolutely a more garbage president than Donald Trump, and Biden's responsible for a lot of it. But Trump and McConnell and Pelosi and Congress and the Federal Reserve also printed upwards of $9 trillion in 2020. So they also scammed you. But isn't that great that Trump can just say it was Biden? Biden can just say it's Putin. And then you fight right wingers as people like Governor Abbott and Trump pass speech laws for a foreign country and you don't even know about it because I'm the only one who talks about it. And I'm not the only one who knows. I know influencers. No one wants to talk about it. It's not convenient. It's like, let's just pretend like we're patriots and cover it up. And, maybe one day we'll get there. It's like, it's not going to happen. So, I'm not just criticizing conservatives to criticize conservatives, but when I have a party like Joe Biden that is totally garbage, I'm a registered Republican. I'm going to vote Republican in November. I'm going to vote Republican in 2024. Unfortunately, probably no matter who's there, because it's just a better option. It's hard to get worse than Biden. But don't you get what I'm saying? Now the Overton window is, well, let's just get somebody better than Biden. This is better than Biden. This is better than Biden. This is better than Biden. Like, what's not better than Joe Biden? So that's how they move the Overton window. Well, we'll get a guy who prints money, sucks up to big pharma, totally sells our country out. But if you criticize it anomaly, you must be a Biden supporter. If you criticize it anomaly, it's like, don't you get that you're never going to win anything because they're just sliding both parties towards what isn't going to work? That's why I'm saying something. I'm not saying it just to criticize. It's like, if the Republican Party passes Second Amendment infringement, First Amendment infringement, prints more money than Jimmy Carter, that's not a problem. That's okay to you because you like the guy in charge. It's like, what's the point of even paying attention to politics if you're just going to be cool with that? That's just my opinion, and that's what I do on my show. And I don't block people who just disagree. I block only on Twitter. I don't even block people on Facebook and YouTube at all, or Instagram, rarely. I only block people on Twitter that are like non-playable characters in a video game. If you ever play a video game, they call them NPCs. It's the player that just has three phrases, right? You click on his head and Mario says, hey, guys, it's like, it's called a non-playable character. So if I'm on Twitter, if you say something insightful, I'm like, I like it. You could criticize me and be right. And I'll be like, that's true. But I block NPCs because I click their head and they say, but Trump didn't mandate it. I click their head and they say, but he tried his best. And it's like, I don't want to live in a world where there's this 50,000 people saying the same two dumb phrases on repeat and they're not even listening to what I'm talking about. So that's who I block. I don't just block people randomly. Let's see. Someone said, I'm a Republican too, and anybody's better than Joker Biden. Absolutely. But think about the Overton window, which means you shift the entire like public perception to the point where you get anything anyway. I'm going to break it down with gay marriage. I don't care where you stand. A lot of people here don't care who's gay. A lot of people have a more Christian stance or a Muslim stance. I don't care. I'm just using this as an example to explain it to you. So 20 years ago, Obama was against gay marriage. Trump, I don't believe was, but he wasn't even in politics. Hillary was. So the left wing, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, you couldn't get into office if you supported gay marriage. So they all pretended to be against it, even though probably a lot of them are gay themselves. Anyway, you move to 2020. Now the left wingers are literally trying to trans like 2-year-olds. And the right wing supports, Caitlyn Jenner, Richard Grenell. They're not only supporting gay marriage, they are hosting transgender and gay people at high level positions. And they'll call you a homophobe if you disagree with that. The reason I'm bringing this up is not to hate on people. I'm just saying that's called the Overton window. The left uses culture, media, politics to shift the public perception so far left. Even if you win in the Republican Party, you're still going to end up further left than the Democratic Party was 20 years ago. So if that is a topic that matters to you as a Christian or a Muslim or a non-Muslim, whatever, and now there's no party left for you, the left wing wins. So if you think about this with Joe Biden, how bad is Joe Biden? I would say he's the worst president ever. But think about how convenient that is. Now, Joe Biden's so bad. What do I want to vote for? Someone better than Joe Biden, right? Who does everybody want to vote for? Someone better than Joe Biden. Who's better than Joe Biden? Everybody. So now they've moved the Overton window towards let me try to figure out who the president is, I guess, to like anyone's better than him. Someone could print $10 trillion, funnel money to big pharma, set their supporters up right before he gets out of office, pardon a bunch of sketchy criminals, totally expose himself as not really on your side. But that's the front runner for 2024. Why? Because it's not Joe Biden, right? I'm going to vote for him. It's not Joe Biden. It's like that's part of the game. They moved the Overton window so far left that no matter who wins, you're going to end in a lockdown. No matter who wins, the mandates are coming. No matter who wins, they're going to funnel money to big pharma. No matter who wins, it's like 9 out of 10 of their agenda pieces are going to get done anyway, because conservatives don't realize that left-wingers are shifting entire realities to the point where even if you win, you're still losing. And then I come along and say, hey, what if we actually did this? And people can't handle it because they're so attached to certain characters like Donald Trump. It's like, Donald Trump could literally not print $10 trillion and people would be like, he's a hero. He didn't print $10 trillion. He's a patriot. He's a conservative. He's a libertarian. And I would agree with you. But then Trump can print $10 trillion. And those same people that would have been like, yeah, I don't want that to happen, will now be like, well, whatever, I like him as a person. So that's the best he could do. And it's like, yeah, for sure. That's the best he can do. But if the best you can do is communism, then maybe that's not good enough. I don't know. I don't want to end up in a gulag. So if the best Trump can do is socialism, communism, big pharma handouts, lockdowns, Fauci, Gates collaborations, Moderna, him running around the country acting like it saved the world when it in fact enslaved the world. If that's the best we can do, then, something's wrong in my opinion. And the reason I speak out is like, I don't feel like this trajectory is going to end where people think it's going to end. And in my opinion, that's why the number one most popular theory in the Trump world is a fake theory that Trump is, has these secret plans all the time, because that's what happens when reality is not satisfying, right? When reality is not satisfying, you play a video game, you watch a movie, you fantasize about things. So that's what the Trump base is doing. Trump didn't do what he said he was going to do. He ended in lockdown. He ended up sucking up to big pharma. He ended up getting his supporters set up. His most loyal supporters got arrested by the FBI. Hillary didn't get arrested. So instead of coping with reality, you just have to fantasize that he's Nikola Tesla's time machine son and Barron Trump's going to come to the future to, rescue the pedophiles, save humanity from the pedophiles. It's like, that's the only way to cope with how shitty of a job he ended up doing at the end. It's like, either you face it and be like, yeah, whatever, he tried his best, or you're like, no, patriots, you don't understand. NESARA GESARA, the whole Federal Reserve got bamboozled by, people have a special money system coming. It's like, maybe crypto will work, but there is, in my opinion, NESARA GESARA is another just like, copium, hopium, like, I can't cope with reality. I don't want to, properly analyze the economy. So wouldn't it be fun if there's white hat, saviors in government who are literally working on a special monetary system to free humanity? It's like, yeah. And I like Pokemon and Power Rangers and, Batman's cool, but it's like at a certain point, politics is not Batman. But, there are cool people. I think some people are doing good. But that's why, in my opinion, that's why that's the number one theory in Trump world, is because the reality is so not what people wanted it to be, that the only way you could still be this obsessed with that character who so clearly didn't do what he said he was going to do, you have to fantasize and hallucinate an entire fake script in order to still, be attached to it. That's why if you go to BitChute or Rumble, and I like BitChute and Rumble, no question. I got 1 million views on BitChute. I think everybody should have the free speech there, but some of the biggest videos on these websites are complete hopium, copium, pathological liars who call themselves patriots, who just make up what they want to happen, and people follow along because it sounds better than what's really happening. And also it like combines truth, like, well, this is true. Well, this is true. So I'm going to jump you off a cliff and you're going to think that it's real because I buttered you up. So it is what it is. People consume what they want, but let's see. I'm going to try to put one up on the screen. Someone said 500,000 sealed indictments, 500 million sealed indictments. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, this is my big problem with a lot of those like theories. There's this thing that says correlation doesn't equal causation, right? Just because this is this doesn't. So that was the whole Q thing. It's like they were onto a lot of stuff, but they're like, they're sealed indictments. True. So that means the pedophiles are getting arrested. No, you want the pedophiles to get arrested. So now you're going to lie to people and say that that's definitely the case. It's good to be hopeful. It's good to be optimistic, but the Q people are just sloppy reporters, in my opinion. They're like, since they're sealed indictments, that means John Podesta's really in for it. And it's like, maybe you're wrong. You know, they have no humility either. It's like, maybe, but maybe you're wrong. I can't be wrong. What are you, a Mossad agent? It's like, okay, just keep lying to MAGA moms. No offense, because it's not just moms, but it's like the amount of like over 40 women that believe these people is fascinating. And there's younger people too, but like something, you know, it's like they got a grip on a lot of MAGA moms that are like, you don't understand, Anomaly. I've been following X22 report for 4 years and he's lied to me 7,000 times, but I'm pathologically believing it. And there's going to be this thing that comes with the ship. And they're like, all right, whatever. You know, people, it's funny, but also kind of sad. Someone said the public wouldn't even know if the cases are sealed. You don't know they exist. I mean, there are sealed indictments, but I guess like here's the thing. You got to go back in time and say like, have there always been sealed indictments? Are there more? Who are they for? Maybe they're for the bad guys, but maybe they're for you. Maybe there's people in the government plotting against you like they did on, you know, January 6th. I don't know, but I guess I'm more skeptical like of everything. So I don't know. That was a big theory for a while. Like, oh, there's all these sealed indictments. So that means Trump's got a secret plan. It's like, you know, it's like Dungeons and Dragons for adults. It's like, let's role play, dress up, but it's all good. Someone said Trump 2024. He probably will be. He probably will be the president. Shout out Don Jr. He shared my post on his Instagram page. Thank you, Don Jr. Let me see. Read some more comments, and then I'm going to take off. Where are we at? 52 minutes? I'm going to keep it under an hour. Someone said QAnon said the world is run by a cabal of demonic pedos. They're kind of right about that. Well, that's why it's so effective, is because they say things that are accurate in some cases, and then they run you off a cliff. They're like, you know, pedophiles exist, right? Yes. You know, there's a lot of high level people, right? So now you know, let's go on a tour and let's, you know, because that exists, that means that Donald Trump is secretly fighting them with sealed indictments. And it's like, that's why these things are so effective. It's the same with the new documentary, like What's in the Water. It's blowing up on Rumble. It's not all fake. It's not like the guy's lying. It's just like he's gaining your trust, giving you truths, and then saying a correlation is a causation, and then, you know, confusing the crap out of people. So I guess, you know, in general, that's kind of why it's so effective. If it was completely fake, it wouldn't be effective. But it's almost like they've completely replaced the theory that everybody knew about pedophiles and then said, okay, since you believe that, now you need to believe that Donald Trump is going to do martial law and he's going to lock up all the pedophiles. So it's like the ultimate brainwashing tactic. And people won't admit this, but I don't care. I've said it a year ago. I haven't talked about it in a while. When the lockdown happened, the number one haters of my post when I was and this is just the truth. If it wasn't you, it wasn't you, but this is what was happening to me. The people who hated my reporting against lockdowns and against mandates and trying to get the message to Trump to say, don't do this, the people that were giving me the most shit were QAnon supporters, because for 3 years, the Q decoding was brainwashing them into thinking that a lockdown is a good thing and Trump's going to arrest the pedophiles when the lockdown happens. So the most rabid, psychotic, anti-reporting people that were mad at my accurate reporting were all people that bought into this idea that now martial law, big government takeover, which is a bad thing, now martial law is a good thing because Donald Trump's, it's the ultimate psyop. It's like pedophiles are real. So now we're going to dupe you into being silent when the world needs your voice the most. We're going to dupe you into thinking big government takeover is a good thing. It's the ultimate inversion. You know, I mean, at a certain point, someone said you were right about lockdowns. I'm not even trying to brag. I'm just saying when I was doing real reporting from March to April, it was a lot of QAnoners that were freaking out because they thought Donald Trump was going to arrest the Vatican or something, and he had a secret ship or whatever. And then 3 months later, all these psychos that were mad at me are now just saying the same thing I'm saying and pathologically lying about as if it never happened. I never said that. It's like a liberal. You know, it's not even the fact that left wingers are wrong, but they have no humility and self-awareness to be like, to be honest, when the virus first came out in like March, it's like, you know, even I was trying to analyze what's going on because I don't know everything. So I'm like, yeah, this seems bad, but let me take a look at it. But they don't have any humility. Like Taylor Lorenz will dox somebody and act like it never happened. It's called just being a pathological liar. If you dox someone, just admit it. Be like, I'm Taylor Lorenz and I dox somebody. But like, oh no, I didn't do it. It's like it's not even like, oh, you're left wing and I disagree with you. It's just pathologically lying. It's the weirdest thing. Like, I don't care if you make a mistake. I've made mistakes reporting, but it's just like, be honest about it. That's what the left wing does. That's also what QAnoners do. I'm not saying they're as bad as media people, but psychologically, some of them are because they just pathologically lie. They'll say something, and then 3 weeks later, they will call you a name for saying that they said that. It's like they think they're above lying because they're a fortune cookie Power Ranger that reads 8chan. It's like, it's the crazy. I'm like, I don't care if you get a theory wrong. I don't care if you're right. I hope you are right. It's just like, stop lying so much, you know? There's channels that I listen to them say Trump is going to be in office on the 6th. He's going to be in office on the 20th. I'm 100% sure. And then after it happened, they just acted like it never happened. And then they said August. And then August rolled around and it never happened. Then they started telling people that he's secretly in charge, you know, and he's running the country. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell are so many MAGA moms believing this? Because if Donald Trump was running the country as Joe Biden's in office, then he's doing a bad job because America's not doing well under Joe Biden. So how do people not critically think? They're so brainwashed by like this hopium. It's like, why would Donald Trump's not in power? And if he was secretly in power, it's not good, you know? So it's like, this is such a common sense thought process. It's like Joe Biden is in power, you know, it's not going well. But like, you know, they want to believe that Trump's still in power. So they're telling themselves Trump is secretly running the country and Biden's a shadow president. It's like, do you think what's going on now is good? You think Trump is passing Biden's executive orders that are garbage? Like, it makes no sense. It's psychotic, but people get so unhinged when you talk about it. I'm like, I'm not trying to stop your theory and like stop you from speaking freely, but like, I just don't understand it. And when you ask, like, people like have a conniption, I'm like, what the heck? Like, who are you listening to? Who's telling you this stuff? You know, it's like it's a wild movement that has been like, you know, sub-created. But let's see. Someone said Obama's the shadow. I mean, I think it's even deeper than Obama. I don't even think Obama had that much power. Maybe now he does after president, but you know, I think there's even people that go deeper than Obama. Like Obama didn't even do that much outside of what like a normal politician would do. He was just kind of a face, but who knows? I mean, he could have a hand in this, you know. He's definitely more present than Joe Biden, you know. Definitely that's a possibility. Let's see. Someone said no president. Let me try to find it. No president has really ever had power. Well, there are definitely things that it just seems like, even with like Reagan and Trump, I'm going to use people that right wingers love. Reagan and Trump are the most beloved right wingers in modern history. Both of them majorly caved to Big Pharma. Reagan signed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, which took away liability from vaccine manufacturers on certain products. It gave them total immunity. So now, you know, they don't even have to be liable for side effects. Now Trump's in office, you know, and he did Operation Warp Speed, which was one of the most, that and the executive order he signed in 2019 was one of the most corrupt government Big Pharma mergers in modern history. So you have two of the most famous Republicans did some of the most egregious and costly, I would say, with the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act and Trump's Operation Warp Speed / 2019 executive order. They've destroyed the country more than most Democrats even have. But, you know, why is it that Reagan and Trump both bow down to Big Pharma? I'm not sure, but I can't even really talk about it because people don't want to hear it. You know, it's like people who love Reagan and Trump, they don't want to hear that they did that. But if you combine Operation Warp Speed from Donald Trump, his 2019 executive order on the universal flu vaccine, George Bush's PrEP Act, in which under a pandemic and an emergency they have no liability, and Ronald Reagan's National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Those are three Republicans, and I'm not saying Democrats are good; they're garbage, but that's three Republicans. If you combine all of those things that they did, Reagan, Bush, and Trump, that is one of the most egregious, in my opinion, just absolute destruction of America. They set America up for failure. They sold us out. They screwed us over. That's the question, though. Why did they do that? Right? How powerful is Big Pharma? Like, Trump has no say, or he's a liar. He got bought out. He got fooled. I don't know. I mean, some people think it's good. I think it's terrible. Mandates aside, it was always going to end up this way because, the power structure was created. So it's like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, step 6, step 7, step 8, step 9, step 10. That was all done in a bipartisan fashion. And then Big Pharma and Big Government says, we're going to do step 11. And Republicans say, oh, no, I don't support that. Well, it's too late because the people that you support already rolled out the red carpet for Big Pharma and Big Government, and now they're oppressing you. So that's what really annoys me, no offense, about conservatives and Republicans. Like, he doesn't support mandates. I know, but he spends 2021. He talks about the mandates like rarely ever, and all he does is sell the vaccine. So he's a total con artist. He's a total snake. He rolled out the red carpet for Big Pharma. He signed on the dotted line. He gave them the money. He gave them the power. He gave them authority. He had liability blocked. And then he sits there and says he's not in on it, and you say he's not in on it. It's just not true. I don't care the cost. I don't care the social cost. I don't care how many dummy influencers lie about me. I don't care how many frauds say they beat me in a debate when I won. I don't care, because the truth is the truth. Time tells all. So, let the future decide. We'll see what happens. If he turns out to be a wizard and has some secret plan, then let it be. God is great. But, I believe I'm going to be right. And that's why I say it. I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe that. So someone said the abandonment of the January 6th boomers. In my opinion, I mean, I don't want to be rude, but I have a hard time feeling at this moment, as somebody who saw through it. And listen, people don't have to listen to me, but I saw through January 6th before January 6th. So if you fell for it, or you went there, or your life was ruined because of it, maybe just consider what I'm saying as somebody who didn't go to that event and wanted no part in it, because I saw through his little fake acting scheme. The whole reason that I was totally disinterested in it was because he was just Moderna. I saw him morph overnight into a total fraud. He just started repeating Big Pharma lies on Twitter every day, Moderna. And I'm like, I don't trust this guy anymore, And so many people try to guilt me. Oh, you're not a patriot if you don't go to January 6th. Oh, and it's like, thank God I have strong intuition. People tried to bully me during the lockdown. People tried to bully me when I talked about Trump, the vaccine salesman, and people tried to bully me publicly on Twitter for not wanting to go to January 6th. Thank God I don't give a shit what other people think, or else I'd be in huge trouble like they probably are. So I'm glad I don't give in to peer pressure. My intuition told me that something was wrong. Here's the thing. I feel the same way about Trump talking about the election. Let me clear this up. I don't think elections in America are good. I think mass mail-in ballots need to end. Mass mail-in ballots, in my opinion, are a horrible idea. I don't even need to explain why mass mail-in ballots are a bad idea. Anybody with a brain understands that. No identification, that's a terrible idea, right? The fact that Georgia has major Democrat cities that don't listen to this stuff, I'm not saying with the ID, but with the mass mail-in ballots, I am in total agreement. Hear me out. I'm in total agreement that there needs to be more done to make sure elections are fair. I'm totally on board. I would never deny that for a second. I watched what happened all 2020, and I feel nearly the same as everybody else. Now, here's where it gets different. That being said, as somebody that does my own thing, I don't just follow in the footsteps of other people. I feel like Trump is just setting up his supporters. He seems like a Tasmanian devil, where he's not pointing out why the election's messed up and really doing something about it. He's just loosely blabbing about it. And then you have these Trump supporters who just loosely blab about it too. And then they get their whole channel taken down, and then they get their Twitter taken down. And my point is this: I'm not telling you not to speak the truth if it's the truth, but if you're just repeating Trump and getting decked out every time you repeat it, it's like, what are you accomplishing? You're not fixing the election. You're not really doing anything for election integrity. You're not pinpointing what was wrong and reversing it to make it right. You're just loosely blabbing. So to me, Just like I felt like January 6th was like a setup, I feel like Trump's election talk is a setup. Not because I think elections are perfect or completely fair, just because I don't trust Donald Trump and I feel like he's just setting his opponents up. Nobody's having intellectual discussions about how it happened and why it happened. Everyone just like repeats him on loop, on loop, on loop. And it's like, he's not really saying anything. He's saying the same 2 or 3 phrases over and over and over again, the same way he talks about the vaccine. He doesn't say 1,000 different things about the vaccine. He says the same 3 things over and over. I saved 100 million lives, 20 million lives, 50 million lives, Spanish flu. It's a world-saving thing. It's the greatest accomplishment in human history. I did it. I rushed the FDA. He's a pull string doll. He doesn't have like a dialogue tree of 50 things to say about the vaccine. He said the same 3 or 4 things on loop for 2 years now. He's like a puppet. It's the same thing with the election. He's not having these fascinating intellectual discussions about the election and fully explaining how big tech rigged it, fully explaining how the lockdowns and the mass mail-in ballots launched all this stuff. Trump's not doing that. He's like a pull string puppet saying the same 2 and 3 generic things about the election. And then every time someone hosts him or somebody talks to him, their shit gets taken down. But I'm not saying not to talk to him. I'm just saying he's not saying anything. And it's like the positive and negatives. He's just getting everybody in trouble without actually revealing and uncovering anything. The same thing about January 6th. What did people accomplish on January 6th? Nothing. People got set up by the FBI. People got in trouble. A bunch of people just got their egos filled. Mike Pence is going to overturn the election. No, he's not. It's a Hail Mary attempt to get Mike Pence to overturn. It doesn't even make sense. It never made sense. I never said it made sense. And people get so mad at me, and then they got set up. So that's all I'm saying is like, I don't think elections are 100% amazing. I feel the same way as everyone else. I'm just not going to sit here and repeat the sleazy vaccine salesman because it just seems like another setup to me. Like, he's like a Pied Piper. Follow me to the Capitol. Everyone gets up. Lock the country down. People get Operation Warp Speed. People get set up. I'm going to say the same things on loop. I saved the Spanish flu. Nobody questioned me. And now it's like, follow me, Merry Patriots, on my election conversation. Now have your own conversations about the election. Do your own research. Really investigate what's going on. And then have your own thoughts about it. Don't just follow him because it's like, I don't, that's just my opinion. It's like, he's just like getting people to say what he says to get them in trouble without actually solving anything. That might be, that might be random. It might be totally coincidental and he might not even mean to do it, but that's just how I see it. And on the, did the sound really go away? I don't think it did. Maybe you just got to turn your thing on, but I want to say this about the election too, because this is one of the main things, in my opinion, that happened during the election. And I'm not going to say that this made 80 million votes, but this definitely changed tens of millions of votes. And it only takes 10,000 in certain areas, right? It only takes 10,000 votes in certain areas to change a whole election. And I believe this affected tens of millions of votes. And I'm the only one. I'm the only person I've ever seen say this. I'm sure somebody out there exists, but I haven't heard any Trump supporters say this because they're just repeating the same Trump puppet phrases on loop. So here's what big tech did after 2016. They started rigging search results, rigging algorithms, kicking the Donald off of Reddit, the pro-Trump thing. So now he won in 2016, barely. I mean, he won, but in certain states, it's only a couple thousand, 10,000 votes. Now they're rigging everything. Social engineering is real. Did you know if I own Facebook and I tweak the algorithm 5%, I could make 1 million people buy a product. I mean, that's how easy it is to socially engineer people when you're dealing with a scale of hundreds of millions of people, right? So after 2016, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, everybody started twisting the scales, and even 5 or 10% is too much for an election. And Donald Trump and the GOP did absolutely nothing about it. So I'm not going to run around in his footsteps repeating him when he set himself up for failure. And I heard him talk in 2018, 2019. And if people followed me back then, I said the same thing because he kept saying, I'm going to win the election anyway. I'm going to win the election anyway. I'm going to win the election anyway. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'm not going to say I'm an expert or a master, but I specialize in social media marketing. I know how Google works. I know how Facebook works. I could probably explain better than the people in front of Congress exactly what they're doing. I know to a T exactly what they're doing. So I'm thinking to myself, because I'm a statistics guy, I'm not like a statistics expert, but I think in terms of like math sometimes. I'm like, all it takes is a 10%, 5%, 3% skew, and they could shift the whole election. So Trump allowed them to go 10, 15% and just said, oh, I'm going to win anyway. I'm like, dude, you don't understand how much they're going to do this. And then 2020 happened, the mail-in ballots, right? But here's the craziest part. So combine all of these things. So now you have mass mail-in ballots, right? So now you have millions of people who probably low information voters, don't pay attention that much. They only watch like Stephen Colbert, whatever. Now they have ballots at their house coming to them. Now, every time you log in Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, any social media app, dating app, Snapchat, every Instagram, everywhere you think, they say register. All the Democrats own these companies. Register, 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 register. And as a marketing person, you're going to get tens of millions of people to register that have never registered. So they're getting low information voters who are now being brainwashed with Democrat skewed propaganda every single day of their lives, getting them to register. Now, all these people are stuck at home because they did a lockdown and Democrats held on to it for a while. So now you have millions of people who registered who have never registered before. They're all stuck in the house. They'd normally be somewhere and too lazy to vote because they don't really care that much. They're being bashed over the head with lopsided propaganda on social media every single day. That's how Biden got millions upon tens of millions of votes. You know, I'm not saying that it's all fair and accurate, but it's like the rigging of the election was also done through, I would say, social media engineering for 4 years, locking people down, mass mail-in ballots to their house, and blocking them from going to any sort of events or concerts that they normally be at. So the only thing that they have to do is literally vote the way that the computer told them to vote. So that's all Donald Trump's fault as well. He didn't address that at all. He played into the lockdown. He played into the the trap in 5 different directions. And now he's just like the Ukraine president. He's sacrificing his own followers for his own agenda. Then he's just telling everybody to go follow him in the streets, to go tell Mike Pence to overturn the election, which literally makes no sense. And people are all emotionally charged up, acting like they're a patriot one day. He set you up. So I'm not going to run circles around this guy. He lied about the vaccine. He sold the vaccine harder than Bill Gates. He set his supporters up at the Capitol. He didn't do anything about his supporters from 2016 that got wiped off the internet. He time and time again didn't understand how social media works and said he could win the election anyway. And then they rigged it further and he played into it for 3 months. That's the real story of the election outside of the mass mail-in ballots, And to be honest, as far as all the machine voting, on one hand, I'm sketched out by any machine. Any machine voting, I want to investigate it because, to me, that's just like, I guess you have to add it up some way, but it needs to be looked at and scrutinized, and there needs to be a fair thing. But to me, it's like a lot of these things that are being said are almost like misdirections from the real rigging that happened, in my opinion. So, I just think people need to get their own identity and their own narrative, because if they just keep repeating Donald Trump, they're going to keep like falling flat on their face and wondering why. It's like, you don't have to completely disagree with them, but find your own narrative, do your own research, come up with a more interesting argument than just saying like the same 5 things on loop that don't really prove anything, yet get you in trouble every time you say it. There's certain phrases. If I were to say right now, I'd get my YouTube deleted, my Facebook deleted. Why would I say it though when it doesn't do anything? You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm fully explaining how it's done. If you want to prove an election is stolen, then you got to go do the research and show it, not just say it. What's the point of just saying? You know what I'm saying? It's like it's almost like he's just like conditioning his people to just get set up. Follow me to the Capitol. Say this, say this, say this. Why? Like even on the Nelk boys, I like the podcast, but he's not. In my opinion, he's not explaining it well. He's just like saying, I'm going to say it. And it's like, what's the point though? How is that going to sway people's opinion? I get everybody has their own thing, and I don't think he should be censored at all, but that's just my personal opinion. People don't have to listen to it, but I feel like personally, I was one of the very few people that saw through January 6th before it happened and said, I want no part in the vaccine salesman little vaccine rally. I called it a vaccine rally for 4 months. I'm like, well, are you going to January? Why would I go to a vaccine rally? Why would I go to a vaccine? Oh, you don't understand. It's going to be the greatest. Yeah, it's going to be the biggest setup in modern history. That's going to get you in trouble, ruin the entire movement, and, falsely accuse everybody of being terrorists for 4 years. It was the biggest mistake ever. But, people are like, no, you don't know what you're talking. Whatever. You don't have to listen to me. That's just my 2 cents. I might be wrong, who knows? But I was right about that for sure. I didn't know that was going to happen. It's not like I knew people were going to do that and freak out, but something didn't seem right to me. And that's how I feel about Trump talking about the election. I'm not saying I completely disagree with everything he's saying, but something doesn't seem right. He seems off. And that's what people don't seem to understand too. When I talk about him, it's not like I'm just hating on his every word. Something seems off with the guy, just like it seemed off in November, right before the January. Something doesn't seem the same. He was like a real person. He had a soul. He would communicate. We didn't always agree, but he was like a real person. He hasn't been a real person in a year and a half. He's like a big, goofy vaccine salesman pull string doll who says the same three things like a non-playable character in a Mario game. And nobody wants to talk about it because they want to go to Mar-a-Lago. Nobody wants to talk about it because they want to, they just want to go to the rally. It's like, whatever, you're following around a non-playable character and you're going to get set up again. I don't know how, but why? Like, you got to identify that he's not even a person anymore. Like, saying real normal things. It's like a big show. The same four phrase, like, red flag, red flag, red flag. I don't know what's going on, but it's not 2018. It's not 2017. Something has shifted and nothing's going to change until people call it out and identify it, because there's no incentive to change. He doesn't have to change. He's going to win the next election easily. So it just seems to me like a shocking red flag. But do I think they MK Ultra'd him? I don't think so, but I don't know though. He's definitely like, you get what I'm saying. And as somebody that was a huge fan from 2016 to 2019, he was on the pulse of everything. Like it was like a real person. I'd wake up, read his tweets. He was real. You might be like, what the hell? It was a real moment. You could feel it. It's like with Elon. I don't trust Elon Musk. I'm not going to plant a Neuralink in my head. So calm down. People are like, you don't. I don't. But I'm feeling what he's saying, and I believe him right now. He might pull a fast one on me in 2 years, but right now I have a good energy. I could feel Elon, and he really means what he's saying right now. Where he's going with it, I have no idea. But he's on the right side of free speech. Maybe that'll change. But with Trump in 2016, 17, 18, 19, even early 2020, he was a real guy on the pulse of everything. I wasn't sitting here making excuses for him. I was defending him accurately because it was the righteous thing to do. And then something happened. It was even after the pandemic. I would say it started in November. It started after the election happened, and it was like he just kept repeating the same couple phrases over and over again. He stopped being a person that was like on the cusp of everything, and it started just being like a loop. It was like I was caught in like a Trump hyperloop, and he's never been the same. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he did that, if it was advisors or something, but like I'm getting flashbacks to when, the same thing with like Bernie Sanders, where say what you want about Bernie because he's always been a left-wing socialist, but he actually used to be somewhat honest. If you find his old things, he used to be further right than Donald Trump on immigration. He used to be against work visas. Bernie's always been a left-winger, but he used to have like a soul and be more like a Tulsi Gabbard where he'd say some honest things. Then one day he just turned into a puppet. He's never been the same. It's the same thing with Trump. I don't know what happens to you after the election, but if they just give up, or I don't know, it takes a lot out of you. But I noticed the same sort of flip. He went from being a real person to just like a total pull string doll. And I don't think he's ever changed. I don't think he's the same. I've watched all Trump's interviews recently. Like he does not feel like the same at all. Like he feels as if he got replaced with like a pull string doll with like only 7 phrases versus like somebody who was like tapped into the culture, knew everything all the time, knew what to say, how to say it. He was really that guy. Someone said I was in delusion 2016 to 2019. You might be right. You might be right. But I do feel like he was doing a lot of stuff, but you might be right. Maybe I was over zealous. And I want to say this too. I'm a pretty patient person sometimes. And I wanted to give Trump a full 4 years. Even I might have been. You might be right. But I was like, let me give him a full 4 years, even during the pandemic. Let me see who he pardons, let me see what he does on his way out. Let me see what tricks he's got up his sleeve. So maybe I was too nice or too patient, but I've always thought like, let me give Trump the full 4 years. I don't want to judge his entire term on the first 3 years. And maybe that was a mistake, something to think about going forward. But I would say the grand finale was disastrous. I was underwhelmed personally. See, he was lit. I feel like he was kind of lit, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. But I agree, Trista, but I'm willing to acknowledge that maybe I was, too emotionally hyped off it or something. I'll have to go back and look. I see some of it old speeches though, and I'm like, nah, he's telling the truth there. But I guess it's like this big game of like, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to do it. Here I go. Here I go. I'm going to do it. Here I go. I'm going to do it. Here I go. I'm going to do it. And it's 2020. Here I go. And then the election happens in November. He's like, just January. Here it comes at January. And then it's like January 20th. Then it's August. He's like, I'm going to run again. To me, that's like the character of Trump right now. He's like the carrot in front of your face where he's never actually fully executing what he said he was going to, but he's always like right around the corner. Just wait till November, wait till January, wait till Mike Lindell in August, wait till 2024, wait till it's this entire, as somebody who was waiting for 3 years, I'm like waiting. I'm like, this is not bad. And then it like pandemic, I'm like, this is kind of bad. And then I'm like, I'm not waiting anymore, where I'm like, I don't believe it anymore. Personally, I'm not a believer in the trust the plan man stuff, but I mean, politics is an ugly game. We got to pray for the Trump family. Don Jr. has a soul. I think there's some future in Don Jr. He seems to be on the pulse a little more now, but it's an ugly game. I can't imagine what he went through or like what you have to do in order to hang out with those people. So, it's definitely not easy. That's for sure. It's not an easy job. It's definitely one of the hardest jobs, and probably just filled with deceit and bad vibes. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of cool things about it too. Let me see. Someone said if Trump runs again, Dems are going to win. Here's my thoughts about that, Doc. On one hand, I think Biden's doing such a bad job that Trump can obviously win. He's a favorite. But I do have to say this. I personally think, and this is not to knock Trump because he did do a lot in exposing it, but I feel like the Democrats have nothing left. They don't have any oomph at all. So really at this point, the only thing that they really have would be hating Trump. So if Trump came back, CNN failed after Trump. MSNBC failed. Do you know who's doing fine? Me, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity. You know who's not? So it's like Trump in a weird way. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying he also like fueled his enemies. So the point of fueling your enemies would be like, you got to really execute when you're in office. But he didn't really execute. In the end, I feel like he fell short. So it's like, if he was going to run and fuel his enemies again and give them high ratings and give them a marketing campaign, say, don't you not want Trump back in office? At least just be that guy, because I'll defend Trump 10 times out of 10 if he's that guy. I don't care what the cost is. If Trump's a righteous man, I'll be there on the front lines defending him. Not literally on the front lines, I guess on my computer, but you get what I'm saying. But he's really not that guy anymore. He's just not. So it's like the negatives of Trump are still there, and the positives are not, in my opinion. The positives went from like 9 out of 10 to like 3 out of 10. So it's like Biden's a 0 out of 10. Trump's that. I feel like he's the greatest thing that could happen to them. Although he's a front runner, I think Rand Paul could probably win. I think, I don't know, DeSantis could probably win. I think a lot of Republicans can win. Anybody could pretty much win. But I don't know. I think Trump could blow Biden out. But I think Trump is like, he's a marketing campaign for them. Like, you don't want Trump, so come vote for us. But I don't know. He seems to be the heavy betting favorite. But to me, if all the pros of Trump were there, I'd say run. I got your back. I want you to win. And I don't care what the cost is. But because he's kind of like a big pharma shill and a liar, it's like you're bringing all the negatives and all the pros to the Democrats, but you're not even I don't even trust you enough to even get behind your campaign at this point. But, we'll see. I don't know. Democrats really hate Rand Paul too. It's weird because Rand Paul's like a nice, moderate libertarian, and like Democrats, they just hate everybody. So I don't want to judge based off who they hate. I just think Trump is like a lightning rod for them, but the positives are not really there as much anymore. But who knows? I don't know. I think Rand Paul would do a good job, but I don't know if he could win, or if Democrats hate him as much as Trump. They seem to hate Rand Paul. It's really weird. Like Democrats, no offense, but like the people who watch CNN, they creep me out. Like they hate everybody. So I don't want to pick based off that. Yeah, I agree with this. Region 9. Democrats are in self-destruction mode. They're not doing very much right anymore. So, strategically, it's like, there's got to be a good strategy to winning, just to like, speak the truth, hit certain talking points. Like, I just don't know if the Trump show is the best option, but it's not up to me. Someone said, I don't get why they don't go with Rand Paul or Ron Johnson. Well, if you want to know, I mean, we'll see who people vote for. But right now, as somebody I'm not like tied into the Republican Party, but you see what I do. Trump is everything. He's the big cash cow. He's the big fundraiser. He's the big dog on campus. He'll call Thomas Massie and say, I'm going to kick you out of the party. It's like Trump is that guy. So most people, I would say, are just getting behind him, either because they trust him or because they just don't want to get run out. Like, there is no space right now in most people's heads, although it's not true. Either you're a Trumper or you're one of the bad guys. That's how a lot of people see it. So it's like people are not ready for this conversation where it's like, it's not just Mitt Romney versus Donald Trump. There's the Mitt Romneys and the Liz Cheneys. There's the Trump, but then there's also people that are better than Trump and more honest than Trump. But people are not ready for that conversation. So right now, it's a game of politics, and everybody's just positioning themselves behind Trump because it's right now it's his race to lose. So I think I'm not a politician, so there's a lot of people you have to understand that are trying to do certain things, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to run for office, run for office. If you want to be a politician, knock yourself out. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to suck up to people. The whole reason I have my platform, the whole reason I've been successful is because I'm honest. I tell the truth. I say what I really think, and I'm not playing a party game. Although the Republicans are better, in my opinion, I'm not just a shill, and I'm not one of these emotional people that's just going to run off a cliff with them. So I'm not trying to talk myself up, but I'm a rare breed. There's not a lot of people like me. So there's people who know what I know. They just don't want to say it because it's not politically or socially convenient. I don't care. You think like there's certain things that I could do to be more liked in certain areas. Like, I don't care because I do my own thing. God is great. I sell my hats. I live a great life. But like, you don't think I should be speaking at TPUSA events or some of these big events? You don't think people would like me? You don't think I'm 20 times as big and as some of their speakers? I'm not the cool guy on campus because I don't just play along with it. And, I'm somewhat of a threat to certain, even though I'm not trying to be, because I like some things TPUSA does, but they're not looking for someone like me that tells the truth about certain. It's like, just go and say socialism sucks. And you know what I'm saying? Just like agree with us. So it's like, it comes at a cost. I think I would be doing a lot more publicly if I was more of a liar, or if I covered certain things up, or if I just played the Team Red game. But I don't do that. And that's why I have 600-700 million views. That's why I'm bigger than all the influencers that they hire. That's why, people continuously look to me. It's because I don't act that way. So, I know these people know who I am. I know they know what I do. Everybody that goes to their events are bigger fans of me than they are of the people that they pay to speak at the colleges. But, they don't, I'm not just a Republican shill, or like I'm not going to call out my own side. So, this is why a lot of people don't say what I say. If you talk about the speech laws that Trump and DeSantis are passing for Israel, you have to understand PragerU supports those laws. TPUSA supports those laws. Most right-wing organizations with money are Zionist first, and they prioritize, their Israel speech agenda over the Constitution of America. So if you're going to accurately say, hey, I'm not a hateful person. God bless Jewish people in Israel. I got love for everybody, Muslims, Christians, white people, black. However, I do believe in the First Amendment, and I don't believe that the First Amendment makes a clause for certain ethnic groups. You have to understand what I just told you right there. No matter how nice and true it is, that is not going to get me a PragerU spot. That's not going to get me a Turning Point USA. They are an organization that supports speech laws. They don't feel the way I feel about that. So in order to really, make it in those crowds, you got to just act like you don't know it. And here's the thing. Everybody knows what I know. It's not that hard to know. I'm not talking about like everyone knows it, but on the influencer side, they know. It's the same reason Trump took $1 million from Pfizer, and now he goes from a vaccine skeptic to a vaccine salesman. Money talks to most people. But for me, I don't get my power from money. I don't get my power from advertising. I've ran 0 ads, 600, 700 million views, 0 ads, almost 500,000 people on Instagram. 0 ads. I'm bigger than all of these people. 0 ads, no money behind me, but I'm blowing them out of the water with engagement. 4,000, 5,000 comments. You know why? Because it's honest, it's raw. I get my power from God. I get my power from my message. I don't get my power from, let me just shut my mouth and lie to the American people and take $10,000 and go to these fancy parties and impress girls and, just sell out my own country for fame. That's not where I get my power from. So at the end, that's why my trajectory is even higher, because I'm not playing the same game. You can't bribe me. You can't pay me to not say that. You can't impress me with a trip or a speaking gig. I'll speak, but if I'm not allowed to explain how every major right-wing organization is supporting anti-First Amendment speech laws in this country because they're getting donor money from people who are trying to quash the First Amendment, then it's not of interest to me, because I'm going to say it anyway. So, that statement alone is what keeps me out of certain circles. And I don't really care. Honestly, people who like me, people who don't. But, it needs to be said, because there's no way to win the free speech war when Republicans are constantly passing laws for a foreign country. But let's see. Someone said Zuckerberg's free speech interpretation is the same. They all go under these rules. You have to understand, there's a reason that Gab, I'm going to break it down to people who want to hear. Gab.com, Gab.com, they're not in the App Store. They're banned from the App Store. Why are they banned from the App Store? How come Getter's on the App Store? How come Rumble and BitChute, I'm sorry, Truth Social, etc., Twitter, why are they all in the App Store? Because Apple and Google have a certain set of rules. They don't believe in the First Amendment. So if you literally try to do what Gab says and say, hey, I will not police the First Amendment, I will not make hate speech laws, you get kicked out of the App Store. Why did Governor Abbott's talking about free speech, right, with Elon Musk. I'm so pro free speech. Governor Abbott has a video that I could show you where he says, I want to kick Gab out of Texas. He's trying to kick the only First Amendment right-wing owned app out of Texas. Why would the Republican governor be against Gab? Because Gab doesn't push anti-Semitism hate speech laws. Zuckerberg pushes them, Twitter pushes them, YouTube pushes them, DeSantis pushes them, Trump pushes them, Getter pushes them, everybody pushes them. You don't exist on social media if you don't push them. You're not going to be in the App Store if you don't push them. You're not going to get into the Republican Party. You can't get to the level of Trump and DeSantis at this moment unless you completely are subservient to that foreign country and literally prioritize them over the First Amendment and call your opposition, anti-Semites. And it has nothing to do with hate and violence or any of that. It has to do with the First Amendment. The First Amendment is not a hate speech. You can't have the First Amendment with hate speech laws. But when you do your research, you'll realize that's one thing that everybody seems to agree on in politics, that our country is created to pass hate speech laws for a foreign country and stop you from criticizing that country more than you're stopped from criticizing your own country. You're allowed to talk about anything with the First Amendment, but not that. So absolutely, absolutely Zuckerberg agrees with them on that. Absolutely, anybody that's on the App Store bows down to that. I get it. You want to keep your app. I understand. It's like I would want to be on the App Store too, but that's why Gab.com is not on the App Store. And that's why, Greg Abbott or Governor Abbott, whatever his name is, he tried to kick them out of Texas. So that's called gatekeeping. That's called controlled opposition. I'm going to, we're for pro free speech, but if you actually do literal free speech and put the First Amendment on the internet, we'll fight you as hard as Apple and Google does. That's who the Republican Party is, and people don't want to hear it. So when they get bamboozled over their heads, they're like, why is this happening to me? I don't want to hear it now. It's like, it's happening because the people that you're looking up to protect you, they actually don't care. They've proven they don't care. And a lot of people don't care enough to listen to what I'm saying or do the research, or maybe it's not an important issue to them. So it's going to just be a constant like slipping down the stairs and wondering why you keep falling. So, and the, I guess the side of this and what I would say to DeSantis or Trump or anybody that I ever had a debate with, if I ever get so lucky to do that, I would explain to them, as somebody that doesn't want Jewish people in America or Israel to be injured or hurt or anything, hate speech laws do not stop hate. The ADL does not stop anti-Semitism. Trump passing anti-Semitic hate speech laws on college campuses doesn't stop hate. It only increases hate because now you are giving people a special protection that no one else has, and it makes people disdainful. And also, it takes away their First Amendment peaceful protest to these things. You can't boycott Israel. I don't boycott Israel, but if I could boycott America, how come I can't boycott Israel? It's not even allowed on certain college campuses. It's not even allowed in certain states. It's against the law in many states. Isn't that a little weird? Of course it's weird, but they're doing it anyway. So it's like this actually is terrible, in my opinion, to fight anti-Semitism. It's the opposite. It's making people more and more disdainful. So, if you really want to stop hate, you can't pass a hate speech law. You have to, first of all, I don't know if this is edgy to say, but I don't really care. Jewish people are the least safe in cities right now. There is no right-wing conspiracy theory. It's like if you live in Brooklyn, it's not as safe anymore. If you're an Asian grandma, stop Asian hate. It's not white neighborhoods that they're getting beaten up in. Just to be honest, it's inner cities. So, these cities that are getting less and less safe, they're getting safe because of what's going on in those cities. It's not because of right-wingers on Gab saying things about you. It's because left-wingers can't run a city, and certain neighborhoods can't seem to, stop the violence. So that's where the Jewish person in America is going to be the least safe, would be in a left-wing city where there's a high crime rate. It's not going to be on gab.com, That's where Jewish people are the less safe. New York, San Francisco, any inner city. So you really want to stop anti-Semitism, fix the cities, Don't blame Gab and people who have an opinion about Israel. That's not stopping anybody from hating anybody. I'm grateful to have a lot of experiences, and I know that just like Black people, Jewish people are not a monolith, and they don't all think and act the same. But if you listen to Trump, DeSantis, and Zuckerberg, you would start to think that they think the same because they're passing the same exact hate speech laws. So a lot of people are becoming disillusioned because they've never met Jewish people who have not done that. It's the same with I guarantee you that Candace Owens has made more right wingers less racist. I don't even think there's many racists left, but it's like because she's not annoying and she's not a liar and she's not like Sean King. So that's actually like a good thing. Someone that's like, I'm not that way. I don't act that way. I don't agree with that. It's like, oh, good. Okay. I just, I wanted to make sure I wasn't alone here. So that type of energy actually makes people less hateful. They're like, oh, finally somebody that will join my community and not just do stupid crap and blame me for it. It's like people enjoy that, appreciate that. So, these right wingers are not passing these hate speech laws to help fight anti-Semitism. They're doing it for their donors, and that's why these laws, it almost makes it illegal to say that they're getting paid off. Like, you can't say this, you can't say this. That's not what the First Amendment says. And the reason they're passing the laws is because some of them are literally true and they just don't want to be discussed about, But it's the same thing with the media. Like, oh, everybody hates us. Well, the media sucks and they have no self-awareness and self-accountability. So Taylor Lorenz brings all these problems on herself and then she cries victim. So it's the same sort of dynamic, I think, with anything. You can't always get everyone to like you, but the groups, in my opinion, with the least self-awareness and the least self-accountability, they could spend trillions of dollars. They could legislate hate speech laws. They're not going to make people like them more because as a group, they're not acting properly and they don't want to take accountability. It's not to say that everyone should be blamed for it, but it's like, there are plenty of groups that have lowered their hate in time. Italians, Irish people, they've lowered it from here to here and nobody hates them anymore. They didn't do it through hate speech legislation. They did it through hard work and acting properly and gaining people's respect. No offense, but the biggest groups that don't want to act properly and gain people's respect on average, not everybody, they're the ones crying the most. They're the ones lying the most. They're the ones voting for the Democratic Party. They're the ones playing the victim. It's never enough. And you could spend $1 bajillion and it's not going to change. Certain things cannot be legislated. Certain things cannot be bought off. Self-accountability, in my opinion, is like the biggest driver of lowering the hate. Can Taylor Lorenz from Washington Post, can she fight all the hate? She's fighting the mirror. She's creating all the hate. The way to stop the hate is for her to stop being such a miserable person and being such a hypocrite. If she stopped doing that for 3 weeks, her hate would decrease by 95%. It's the same with the Anti-Defamation League. They are garbage people, but they don't know that. So they just keep pushing and, oh my God, people hate us. You suck, ADL. You're the biggest driver of anti-Semitism. If you acted properly and stopped using your ethnic group as a shield, people would look more favorably on them. But you're using your group as a shield, being garbage human beings, working with governments and big tech and, establishing all this stuff. And you're spending money doing all this stuff and it's not getting better. You're admitting it's getting worse. You're not helping. It's the same. Oh, I'm going to lock everybody down and they're going to get fatter and I'm going to help your health. No, you're not. This is all like inverted way of thinking. But, I didn't want to go on too much of a tangent, but I know people will say, oh, Anomaly, this is why I don't get booked. Anomaly is such a hate. Nobody thinks I'm hateful that listens to me. I'm probably the least hate. Everybody else like screams, probably like the least hateful news analyst. It's like, I'm not doing this from a place of insatiable hate. It just doesn't work. It's like being freaking 400 pounds and saying everybody else made you fat. It's like at a certain point, you're going to have to tell yourself the truth and be like, yeah, if I want to lose weight, I got to do it myself. It's not always everybody else's fault. So it's the same with hate speech. The two biggest victim groups, they have no self-awareness, no self-accountability. They have thousands of special interest groups, and not a single one of them is actually focused on being better and stop lying so much. It's like, how's it going to go away? Historically, everyone just, what are you doing anything? No, it's everyone else's fault all the time. Okay, yeah, we'll fight racism with George Floyd statues and posting things on billboards. Like, that's not going to stop racism. It doesn't make sense. But, everybody wants to pretend like that's a good idea. And the right wing does that with anti-Semitism. They do the same thing that the left wingers do with like black, stuff. And when it comes to like Hispanics, people used to talk about that with racism. Nobody's even talking about Hispanics that much anymore. Do you know why? Because Hispanics, despite the fact that there is poverty, there is, prejudice, there is Hispanics who work their ass off and don't have white privilege or whatever, but they're just freaking on average busting their ass and not causing as much of a scene. So now in this country, you don't even see that much. You only hear talk about illegals because the immigration's absolutely insane and it should be talked about. But as far as like the average Hispanic in America, you don't really hear that much anymore because they just work and grind and don't complain. It's like that's a foreign concept for certain groups that, you don't hear that much about Indians in America. Indians come here from a poor country, where certain areas they don't even have toilets. And, you don't hear Indians complain. They just work and make things happen. And, I don't know. Certain people don't want to do that, but it's up to them. I guess maybe some people have it worse or something. Someone said illegals are good. I mean, there's definitely two sides of the argument, but if there's 100,000 people coming a month, I mean, that's kind of a problem. It's just not healthy for a country. You could have compassion for an illegal immigrant. You could even, but like 100,000 a month. I mean, at a certain point, it would be like, I don't know, just like, why even have rules? Let's just let anyone fly here from any country and just join our election. It's like, there's got to be some sort of rule. As a human, I don't hate illegals. I mean, I appreciate them as human beings and I understand the struggle and I even root for a lot of people, but 100,000 a month, 150,000, like whatever the number is. I mean, do the math. That's too much. We got to have like a border and a system. I'm totally on board with obviously the right wing on that, but I don't hate people as people. It's just like, it's like San Francisco. It's too liberal. I like liberalism when it's like peace, love, and positivity. Yeah, leave me alone. That's cool. But like San Francisco, it's like New York City, LA. At a certain point, if you don't have any structure at all, it's like socially they don't want any structure, but but they also have the most rules. Wear a mask, but theft is going to be easier to do here. No guns. People can't defend themselves in our state, but it's like they're all screwed up. Their priorities are screwed up. So, it's like you can like people without being a total dummy about it. Everything they do is just backwards. But all right. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Thanks for listening. I appreciate everybody who stayed here. Real quick, stayintouchwithme.com is my free email list. If you've never signed up, you can sign up now. I only mail once or twice a month. I try not to be annoying. Today I sent out an email. If you check your spam folder. I sent it out about two things. One, I have black beanies available on my website. They just got in after a year. We have like 100 something left. I believe we're going to have 500 total for the whole year, but the other ones aren't going to get here for like 2 months. We have 100 something now. Also, I wanted to say I have a new podcast with DC Drano, the big Instagram influencer. We talked about this Hollywood blood ritual that they're just admitting publicly now. They drink each other's blood. It's super creepy. it just creeps me out talking about it. I apologize. But I talked about that. I also have a little bit of extra stuff in there, a little bonus stuff, and links to all my podcasts on Spotify, Apple, Rumble, BitChute, etc. So I'm trying not to be too annoying with the email list, but check it out and check your spam folder if you haven't seen it. StayInTouchWithMe.com. That's where you can find it. God bless you. I appreciate you. And, like the baby blue hats too, they're at godblesshats.com. Appreciate you guys.